Aloha and welcome back to Ukulele Corner. In this lesson, we're going to dive into playing Hawaiian-style ukulele, and we're going to learn a very important vamp that you can use at the end of verses. A lot of Hawaiian songs have repetitive verses with different lyrics that are sung. And in between the verses, there's a short pa'ani, or instrumental break, that is often called the vamp. And we're going to look at it first in the key of C, and then we're going to learn how we can move this easily to other keys. It's really fun and it's great. Right in first position, we can use open strings. I have a high G tuning here, but I'm going to show this to you as well with the low G tuning, so you can do it with either. And a baritone, we'd just be moving, instead of the key of C, we'd be starting the key of G here. So let's take a look at a C chord. Our vamp is just going to be a measure or 4 counts of G7 and a measure of C. Regardless of the feel of the song, the tempo, and many other factors, that's just the basic idea of what we're thinking. G7, 2, 3, 4, and C. Let me play this vamp for you. It sounds like this. And that takes us from G7 to C with a really beautiful melody that connects the two chords together. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking advantage of the high G with this particular phrase where I'm using that note, I'm starting with it. Then I'm playing the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. Then I play the E on the 2nd string open to the 1st fret. Now here I could play a G on the 3rd fret, but I go back to the open string of the 4th string. So I get that note. Then I play like I'm playing a full G7 chord. Now I put my 3rd finger down on the 2nd fret of the high string B. I play that note and I slide it up 1 fret. So practice that. Play a B, 2nd fret of the high string with your 3rd finger and slide it up to C. And often the arpeggiation that happens in that measure of C, the 2nd measure, can vary. The 1st measure, you can change rhythms around too, but this is a really common vamp that we find in Hawaiian music, and one of my favorites. So let's look at that again. And so I'm playing the 4th string, and with your right hand there are many different techniques you could use. You could use a variety of different fingers across the strings, or thumb and then index finger playing the high string. You could play this all with your thumb, moving around quite a bit. I'm going to mainly use, for now, just thumb, index, and middle fingers. And I'm going to use my thumb on the 4th and 3rd string. I'll use index and middle on the top 2 strings. So index is going to play the 2nd string, and middle will play the high string. So I'd go thumb in my right hand. Then I would play thumb again, index twice, back to thumb. Then I play the middle finger and slide. Then I'm going to play thumb on the 3rd string for the C chord. Index, middle, index, thumb. So let me play it a few times. You can get it in your ear and practice. The count there is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4. So the trick here is that with the first phrase, we're not playing on beat 2. We play 1 and hold the note, then the end of 2, then 3 and 4, and then we play the downbeat of the next measure, 1, then that's quarter note, then 2 eighth notes, 2 and don't play on 3, 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 4. That really corresponds well with down, down, up, up, down, that strumming pattern. This is like a fingerstyle equivalent of it. Brings out the same rhythm. Now sometimes I like to do a hammer-on the 2nd string. Here, right here, and then the slide. That really smooths it out. Instead of having to repeat 2 notes with your right hand, you can practice doing a hammer-on, play the open string, then you just hammer your 1st finger down right up against the 1st fret and get that to ring, let it sustain. So at one point here, we're playing a full, all the notes of G7 are ringing, relieving the notes down. Then you slide and release right up into the C. So that works great in the key of C. Let me give you an example. I'm going to play a little bit of a song. Here comes our vamp. Here we go. Nice. So that vamp is a great way to end a phrase and get into the next verse. A lot of Hawaiian songs are built on these very short cycles, as I mentioned, of verses that repeat. The same chord cycles go. That is a 10-bar phrase, usually 8-bar of a vocal phrase or a melodic phrase, and then the vamp, which is 2 bars, so that makes 10 bars. Okay, so spend some time, get to know this in the key of C, using those open strings. And we have explored at Ukulele Corner all sorts of ideas of moving chord shapes around. And things like the caged system, where you can take a C chord, move everything up, and where those open strings are, your first finger makes a bar chord. With that in mind, if I wanted to play this in the key of D, here's an A chord, or a D chord, then I have an A chord in this position, right behind it. So you can practice going from a D, 2, 2, 2, then pinky on the 5th fret, to 2, 4, 3, 4. I'm releasing the bar and placing it back, so my first finger's pivoting. If I do this, hey, we can get our phrase. Now that there aren't open strings involved, we could play this anywhere. That's the key of D. If I wanted to go to D sharp or E flat, 1 fret higher. If I wanted to play in the key of E, another fret higher in 4th position. How about 5th position? Let's try it. In the key of F, this would be C7 to F. How about the key of G, 2 frets higher? Nice. So now we have a vamp that can end your verses in any key by using this fingering. Let's try to figure out what we need to do in order to make this work with the bar chords. So let's go back to the 2nd position. Let's look at it in the key of D. Let's first just practice that transition of the D to an A7. We're not using open position chords, right? A D and A7 like this. We're using the C shape. Looks like a C chord moved up 2 frets with the bar chord here. Then I just back up my pinky 1 fret, I put my 3rd finger down on the same fret, this is the 4th fret of the 3rd string. 2nd finger falls right in between on the 2nd string. Now if I play the pattern, I have to play the 4th string, then the 3rd string, then I do that hammer on, play back down the 4th string, then do the slide. Release into the bar, I place the bar, and then I can play. Same thing with the right hand. Now when I play these first few notes, because we're traveling from the 2nd fret of the 4th string, then we're playing the 2nd fret of the 3rd, you can actually have a bar here. Right, so the bar can already be placed there. Sometimes I move it off as soon as I do the hammer on. Then I place it back. I just kind of pivot with my finger. It gives me a little leverage when I do the slide. You can experiment with that, see what feels good. Is it that little wind up by bringing your finger up and then sliding, does that help you? I do that. I like to rotate my wrist a bit to get that slide. I'm using a little bit of forearm rotation there, and that can really help to bring articulations out with slides. See, I'm not just moving my whole hand all together. I'm rotating the forearm. That's carrying the finger. I'm barely putting I'm not using the finger to stretch up. I'm moving my forearm to get there. So by lifting off that bar, as soon as my 2nd finger's down, here, that gives me some leverage to get up to the next note. So now we have a movable shape. If you're just to strum that, once again, if I did a down, down, up, down pattern, rhythm, melody. Makes it easy to modulate. Right now I'm in 5th position, so I'm playing the key of F. I'll play that progression as in earlier. 1, 4 to 1. I'll do a G7, C7. All right, here comes our vamp. I'll turn a little sus there. B flat, back to F. F, G7, C, back to F. Here comes our vamp. You can even do a little ending there. I took this shape, I made it up 3 frets into a 6th chord, which is 8, 10, 8, 10. And I moved it up 3 frets. E flat, E 6th, F 6th. So what's really wonderful about the ukulele, we can learn fingerings that we can use in many different keys. And they're easy to move around, it's easy to remember when you relate things also to the key center and where those 1, 4, and 5 chords are. If you think of it in terms of harmony, if you can start practicing that way, it's really going to help you to navigate the fingerboard and play the music that you love. Now real quick here, I'm going to just grab this other ukulele I have here. This is it's still a tenor ukulele, but it has a low G. And if I go back to C, now we have this low pitch here, which actually is nice for our starting note. But if I go back to that note, it's not going to be linear. It's not going to have a nice scale. So we have to play the 3rd fret here. We have to play an extra note on the 2nd string. So I'm going this note. That G I can no longer do as a high G, right? It's on the 4th string, so I have to play it on the 2nd string. A little more work there. But hey, it still works. D. Now we got to use our pinky, a little tricky, right? And then we're going to do that slide. Maybe you'd use your 3rd finger. This makes it a little tricky because you have to play the pinky note and then slide it. I would immediately think, well, how about an open string? Right, instead of the 5th fret. In this one position, this would work. Yeah, that's good. But if I did it up higher, let's say 5th fret, I have to use that pinky note. So what I might do here, because it's hard to get the pinky jumping from the 2nd string to that slide position, I might do a hammer-on instead on top. And so that would be like this. Here, 3 to 4. I'll play it up to tempo. Yeah, that works fine. Yeah, back in D. So with the lower tuning, I'm adjusting slightly, just changing a couple of notes around, but the basic idea is still there. Still the sound is great. It works for a vamp for a Hawaiian song. So have fun with that one, and I will see you again soon, as we say here in Hawaii. Ahui ho, until we meet again.